Yeah, I hate cleaning my room. This could take all year. Aha, my old bag of tricks. Maybe I can find a little magic to clean up this mess.
Alright, so Masters of the Universe is coming back, and there's one particular absence that's got fans talking more than anything else in that trailer. I'm talking about Orko. Yeah, that little floating wizard from the original cartoon. The one who could barely cast a spell without something going hilariously wrong. The comic relief that somehow became the heart of the entire show. He's missing from everything we've seen so far, and people are starting to wonder if he's been cut entirely, if the studio thought he was too goofy for modern audiences, or if there's something else going on behind the scenes. Fair warning before we go further, we're diving into rumor territory here. Some of this might turn out to be spoilers, some might be completely wrong. If you want to walk into this movie knowing absolutely nothing, maybe bookmark this for later. But if you're curious about what might be happening with one of the franchise's most beloved characters, let's talk about it. Because honestly, this whole situation says a lot about how studios are trying to balance nostalgia with modern filmmaking, and the results might surprise you. The trailer gave us plenty to work with. Eternia looks vibrant and colorful instead of the washed-out, gritty aesthetic we've seen ruin other reboots. The costumes feel ripped straight from the cartoon without looking cheap or embarrassing. Even the tone seems to embrace the fun, which is honestly refreshing after years of franchises being ashamed of their own history. But scan through every frame, every character reveal, every battle sequence, and Orko is conspicuously absent. Not hiding in the background, not teased in a quick flash, just gone. For casual viewers, maybe that doesn't register, but for anyone who grew up with the original series, that's a massive omission, because whether you found him annoying or endearing, Orko was everywhere in that show. He wasn't optional, he was part of the core team, as recognizable as Skeletor's laugh or He-Man's transformation sequence. So when he doesn't appear in promotional material for what's supposed to be a faithful adaptation, people notice and they start asking questions. Here's something interesting. Orko wasn't even part of the original plan. The toy line that launched the franchise didn't include him. He was created specifically for the Filmation cartoon as a way to inject humor and lighter moments into what was essentially a show about muscular warriors hating each other with swords. Classic comic relief, right? Except Orko evolved into something more substantial. He became the character who showed vulnerability when everyone else was invincible. He provided emotional moments that grounded the fantasy. He gave younger viewers someone to relate to in a world of gods and monsters. When the show became a cultural phenomenon, Orko came along for the ride. He got his own action figure. He appeared in virtually every episode. For an entire generation, he wasn't just part of Masters of the Universe, he defined it, which makes his exclusion from the 1987 movies still feel like unfinished business. To be completely fair to those filmmakers, they didn't cut Orko because they hated the character. They cut him because the technology wasn't there yet. This was the late 80s. CGI that could create a believable floating magical being? Not happening. Puppetry advanced enough to give Orko the range of motion and expression he needed? Expensive, limiting, and potentially disastrous if it looked cheap. So they gave us Gwildor instead, a Trollan inventor played by Billy Barty, who filled a similar narrative function without the technical challenges. And look, Gwildor has his defenders. He's quirky and memorable in his own right. But everyone knew he was a substitute, not a creative choice, a technological limitation forced onto the story. That's why this new movie felt like the perfect opportunity to finally give Orko his proper live-action debut. The technology exists now, the budget is clearly there, the nostalgia factor would work in his favor. So where is he? Now we get to the interesting part. According to sources that have been reliable on previous franchise rumors, there's been an update on Orko's status. The claim is straightforward. Orko does appear in the movie. It takes a while for him to show up, and the moment doesn't last extremely long, but it's described as a great moment. So if this information is accurate, Orko hasn't been cut. He's just being saved for something specific. But here's where it gets complicated. Based on that description, this doesn't sound like Orko joining the adventure from the beginning. It doesn't sound like he's bouncing alongside He-Man throughout the entire runtime, providing commentary and comic relief. This sounds more like a cameo, maybe an extended one, maybe a meaningful one, but still limited in scope. That could mean several things. Perhaps he appears in the third act as backup during a crucial battle. Maybe he shows up to provide important information or magical assistance at a turning point. There's even the possibility this is a post-credits tease for future installments. And honestly, that approach might not be a mistake. Let's be realistic about the challenge here. Orko is a cartoon character, designed for a medium where physics don't matter and tonal shifts happen instantly. Translating that to live action is genuinely difficult. If they make him too silly, he could undermine the entire movie. If they make him too serious, he loses what makes him Orko in the first place. If the visual effects aren't perfect, he'll look ridiculous instead of magical. The margin for error is razor thin. So introducing him carefully in a controlled moment where the filmmakers can showcase what works without committing to 2 hours of screen time, that might not be playing it safe. That might be playing it smart. It lets them test audience reaction. It preserves the option to expand his role in sequels if people respond positively, and it avoids the risk of him dominating the conversation in ways that overshadow the main story. If this rumor holds up and Orko does appear, even briefly, it tells us something important about how the filmmakers are approaching this movie. They're not ignoring the franchise's history. They're not embarrassed by the cartoon elements. They're trying to honor what came before while making something that works for contemporary audiences. That's a tricky balance, and frankly, most reboots fail at it. They either go too far in one direction and alienate longtime fans, or they pander so hard to nostalgia that they forget to make something new. A brief but memorable Orko appearance could thread that needle perfectly. It acknowledges his importance without betting everything on a risky element. It opens doors for the future without forcing them open immediately. And if the movie succeeds, it sets up a sequel that could go full fantasy, bringing in Battle Cat, exploring Trolla, and giving Orko the expanded role fans have wanted for nearly 40 years. Of course, we need to acknowledge the obvious. This is still a rumor. The source has credibility, but until Amazon, MGM, or the filmmakers confirm, nothing is certain. There's also the possibility that Orko's limited appearance is less about strategic planning and more about lingering uncertainty. Maybe the studio still isn't convinced audiences will accept him. Maybe the effects work took longer than expected, and they had to scale back his involvement. Maybe test screenings led to changes we don't know about yet. All of those scenarios are plausible. And for some fans, even if the rumor is true, a cameo won't be enough. They'll want Orko fully integrated into the story, not saved for a moment at the end. So where does this leave us? If current information is accurate, Orko will finally make his live-action debut in Masters of the Universe. Not as a main character, not as constant comic relief, but as something more focused and intentional. Whether that's the right call depends entirely on execution. A brief and memorable appearance could be the perfect way to reintroduce him to modern audiences. Or it could feel like a missed opportunity that leaves longtime fans disappointed. We won't know until we see it. What do you think? Is a limited appearance the smart way to bring Orko into live action, or should he have been a full character from the beginning? Does holding him back make you more or less excited for potential sequels? And honestly, how important is Orko to your version of what Masters of the Universe should be? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious where people land on this because it seems like everyone has a different take. If this breakdown was helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to Movie Sentry so you don't miss future updates on Masters of the Universe and everything else coming down the pipeline. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.